So we're back for part two. I don't sleep so well these days. And I got a couple of messages overnight. One was from an old friend of mine named John, who used to work with me at Sprint, and told me he's only going to watch if I wear my massive bathrobe. And I got one from my cousin referencing the massive, insane amount of shoes back here, but it being a budgeting podcast. Podcast, sorry, more of a live stream. But I do cut out in other areas so that that's affordable, but we'll get to that eventually. Today I wanted to just invite you all to thinking about a budget, and a budget is it's the foundation for what you need to do to move forward. There's a lot of ways to do budgets. Me and my girlfriend use Excel. You can do it on paper. You can do it in the Notes app on your phone. The whole point of a budget, though, is so that you know where stuff is going. Most people, if you ask them, well, how much money do you spend on A or B every month? They have a number that they think they are using, but it's not actually the number that is coming out of their bank account. And part of the reason for this goes back a long way, but there's some financial psychology behind. When we used to deal more with paper currency, you actually had to give it away. You had to hand it over to get something, and you felt that loss immediately. And now we don't. So we swipe a card, we move on, we get a paycheck, our account hops up, and then we get to the end of that 2-week period and our account is almost at zero. So the point of the budget is so that you can find out where your money is going every month. And that's not always easy to do. We're getting ready to roll up on April. So if you're watching this or you've heard this, then what you should do starting April 1 is track every penny. I had a friend a few years ago who loved Braum's ice cream. For those of you in Kentucky, you don't have them. It's like a little dairy / restaurant, kind of like a Dairy Queen, but like they actually have a grocery in there and they sell like their milk and their ice cream. And she loved their ice cream, and she found out that she was spending $110 a month on ice cream. She had no idea. I also quit smoking. I stopped back in January. I vape, so you'll probably see me doing this. But anyway, back to budgets. Your budget is going to be your foundation, your jumping off point, so that you can bring in this amount of money and then spend this amount of money and know where that's going. So in April, what you should do is track every cent that you spend and write it down, make a note, email yourself. I keep an ongoing text thread to myself as my notes. Whatever you do, just so that you know where your money is. And at the end of April, you go back and review that and see what area shocked you the most. And the reason you need to do this is because if you're ever going to get to a point where you're making this, but you're left with something at the end, and that gap is what you can use to save and invest for retirement, you first and foremost have to know where your money's going, what you're spending it on, and what are the areas that you can trim back. So you can make budgeting as simple or difficult as you want. I break mine all the way down to like household items, which would include like laundry detergent, trying to Cascade pods, things like that are used around the house. Then I have a grooming section, which is face wash and shampoo, contact solution. But you don't have to get that picky, just so that for you personally, whatever works, that you can look back at the end of April and say, hey, I see 4 or 5 things I could do different in May that would save me money. And you can just look at where your money goes, and then you can look at inside those categories. I'll give you a perfect example. I am a weirdo. I actually use mouthwash before I brush my teeth. And for years I used Listerine, and for the big container, it's $7.99 at Target. And several years ago, I switched to the Target brand, which is $3.89. So to my cousin's question last time about all the shoes, there's things I do cut back on in my life that I buy cheaper. My clothing, I don't spend a lot of money on. I wait for sales. My shoes is where most of my money goes, and my car. But spend the month of April writing down and tracking every dime that you spend, what you spend it on. And if you don't have a nice chunk left at the end of April, a lot of money left over, then start reviewing this and talk to your spouse or loved one or partner or roommate, whoever, and find an area to cut back. Kristen recently canceled cable and went with YouTube TV. It's $40 a month, and we aren't missing really anything. So that's saved. So for April, write it all down, keep it. I don't care how you do it, piece of paper, notebook. I think just texting yourself would be easiest because you're always going to have your phone on you, and it's easy right then and there. You don't lose a receipt or have to go hunt through your bank account. And this is going to be your jumping off point. This is where you're going to start so that we can begin to get you at the end of every month or at the end of every 2-week pay cycle money that is left over that we can deploy so that it can actually go to work for you. And that's where you're going to have emergency fund. That's where you'll do your actual investing in the stock market and buying companies. But to do that, you have got to understand where your money is and where it goes every month. If you all have any questions on budgets, send me a message. But when I talk about a budget, what I'm wanting you to do is find a way to live within whatever it is you make. A lot of us use credit cards, and let's say we make $100 a month, but we spend $105, and that $5 ends up being high interest rate debt on a credit card. So I'm trying to get you, if you make $100 a month, to only spend $75. Would be the in-game goal, saving about 25% of everything that you earn. But it's way too early for that, so let's get it from spending $100 a month down to $99. So next month, as you see where you spend, also keep track of the things that can't change. Those things that can't change would be, for example, your mortgage or your rent payment, your car payment, car insurance. Typically, those are going to be the same every month. I mean, you could shop around your car insurance, but understand that there are certain things that have to be paid for. There's no option to not pay your electric bill. There's no option to not pay your rent or your mortgage. So you have to realize that inside of that $100 you make a month, if $40 is for your mortgage, that number can't change. You can try to refinance or get a smaller apartment, but these are massive undertakings that aren't really going to free up that much cash. So we have to work with the things that are pliable, the things that we could move around or drop or change. So next time, I'm going to talk to you some as we go into April about looking at things you can change, small things. And keep in mind, I encourage everybody to read motleyfool.com. It's probably my favorite place. It's two brothers that started investing when they were kids. Their dad got them into it. And now they own this company, and their goal is to just buy and hold good companies for forever. They aren't day traders. They're not in and out of the stock market. And they've got a podcast called Motley Fool Answers. It's where people can write in. And the good thing about that one is if you see one on, let's say, college tuition, and I have no children, I can just delete that episode and move on. It has no bearing in my life. If you get one on retiring in the next year, if you're not retiring in the next year, you can skip that one. But they do have some really good advice on there. And then another one that I would suggest, if you can break it off, is I think it's $10 a year for Money Magazine. And it's a very basic, broad overview of just about everything in finance, from college tuition to healthcare expenses to buying a home to retiring. They've got everything in there. They rank the best banks every year, stuff like that. So get ready to start texting yourself a lot in the month of April. And if you find some things that you are spending money on, you have questions about, shoot it over to me. I'll do my best to answer them. Unfortunately for John, I probably will not do this in this robe every time because, good God, it is hot in here now. But it's good to know that people saw it. There were some responses. A lot of people liked it. So hopefully you all can learn something, and hopefully I can provide something to you. If you have any questions, just shoot me a Facebook message. Be glad to answer them. Be glad to help anybody out. And I will probably see you all tomorrow. That will do it for today. Have a good day. Bye-bye.